Okay, we are live. Good morning. This is Attorney Vincent Davis, and this is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. I'm joined by my co-host for this morning show, Miss Deidre Payne. Miss Payne, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good to have you on the show this morning. And we're joined by a very special guest, Miss Carolyn, and I hope I don't pronounce the last name incorrectly, Fowler.
Yes,
Okay, Miss
perfect.
Fowler, how are you this morning?
I'm very ecstatic to be on here with you.
Oh, great.
I'm
I
happy.
appreciate that. Appreciate that. You've been watching the show in the past, I guess?
Yeah, I watch a lot of your videos. I even contacted you like months ago over a case.
Okay. So what state are you from?
I'm from Maryland. I'm in St. Mary's County.
Oh, we had somebody on Maryland yesterday, didn't we?
Yes.
Mhm.
Which is interesting because I usually get a lot of people from certain states. Of course, California, because that's where I am. But, I get, like Oregon, Arizona, Texas, occasional Florida. And recently, I've been getting states that we usually don't get, Maryland, and I got Maine last week. I think I had two guests from Maine, and I think even one of the co-hosts on one of the other shows is from Maine. I forgot
Dang.
I forgot about those folks up in Maine, but Maryland. I said this the other day. I have someone that works at my law firm that spent I think like 15 or 17 years. He left LA, went to the DC, Maryland area, lived there, and then came back. And he's back here now. But interesting part of the country. So I guess CPS is up to its same antics in Maryland.
Yes. The guest you had yesterday, I actually gave her your number to get
Oh,
in
okay.
contact with you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the referral. So, what happened to you in Maryland?
There's a couple things. The one I want to touch on was 12 years ago. It consists of my granddaughter and her half sister. And out of the blue, we were outside and we had a officer and a social worker come and told my son that they were taking his daughter on an allegation that the mother was having CPS issues and she lived down the street from us. And they came here and they actually pried my granddaughter off of my son, where I mean, his clothes were like coming off. And I was crying, and my other daughter was here. She was crying. We were all crying. And they could not give us a reason why this was happening. Now, mind you, my son had joint custody, he had control and residential. They never asked him for any kind of paperwork or anything. They said that the child was going to foster home for the weekend and we could go to social services on Monday morning. So we did that. So we talked to the supervisor. She rest assured my son that he would get his daughter. Now there was another sibling involved from my granddaughter's mother, and they took that child out of the home too. At the time, she was 3 months old. Um, so we went to social services, and they assured my son that he would get custody of my granddaughter, and that I would get the sibling. And they told me to go get checked. Da, 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 da. I didn't want that. I wanted my grandkids together. So we went there, and then we had court. They came to my home, they checked my home, and they left. We had court, and the supervisor decided, oh, no, we're going to keep her in foster care. And I was like, that's not what we agreed on. And then the male that came to my home, he said, at the time, I was replacing the tile in my kitchen. So, right next to my kitchen, I had a pile of tile and I had the glue sitting there. Well, he told the judge that my house was all torn up and my floor was torn up and I had chemical everywhere. And then he checked my backyard and told the judge that I had all kinds of knives and stuff laying around in my yard. And the only thing he found was a rusted bike chain. So when we went to the court, I had just brought my granddaughter home from the beach. My daughter gave her a bath and put her in this little yellow sundress, and that's what she was wearing when the social workers came. Now, the one social worker got on the stand and said that my granddaughter was caked with dirt. I've never seen a child caked with dirt, but okay. So anyway, after they had, their say so, I got up there and I straightened it out. And I told them the only thing he found in my backyard was a rusted chain. And my floor was being retiled. And I had the tile next to it in the chemical. And then I told him that the supervisor told me and my son that we were getting the kids. And now she's changing her story. Well, the judge was upset. And I could pull the records. And he told them, all three, and he pointed to them and said, you, and you. How would you like to spend a night in jail? Because I got them purged on the stand of what they said. Now, the one supervisor is still there today. The male came to my house that same night and apologized for lying on the stand. But my point is it was so easy for them to come and take my grandkid out of my home with no explanation, no warrant or anything. And they waited after hours to tell me, oh, it's after hours, so your granddaughter is going to have to stay the whole weekend. When she was 5 years old, she was petrified. She didn't know what was going on. And then I had pretty much same case with the grandkids I have in foster home now. They ripped them apart, put two little boys in one car. The other two little girls, they were screaming at the top of their lungs. And my one little granddaughter said she wasn't going nowhere. They was not strapping her in until she had my number for her to call me to come get her. And I had to deal with that. And it does. It affects you. There's no sleeping at night. You cry. I'm at work. I go in the bathroom. I get myself together. I come back out. I go back. It's a mess. But the moral of the story is my son got his daughter, and I got the 3-year-old. And I had the 3-year-old until she was over a year old. I taught her how to sit up. I weaned her off the bottle. I taught her how to walk before she even went back home. But my thing was I knew that I only had her to take care of her. And I knew my responsibility was to protect her until it was time for her to go home. It wasn't my, place to keep her and plan on keeping her forever.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you a couple questions. There's a couple things I want to ask about. Number one, do you have grandchildren that are still in foster care?
I have 4.
And is it that you don't want them, or what's going on there?
I have fought from day one. They're in what's called a SINA case, children in needs of assistance. So they more or less put this metal box around these children. I called lawyers. I talked to a legal aid, and she flat out told me, you can go and get a case. You're going to waste your money because you're going up a SINA case, and SINA case has priority. In the meantime, I was calling social services, leaving messages. Nobody was calling me back. I was emailing. I was getting emails blocked. It took me like 8 months to fight with the social workers. And I told them, I said, don't even put me in the room with my grandkids. Just put me on a video. And that way, if I say something or they say something, you can just shut us off. She said it had to be therapeutic for the children to be able to see me, even though they had lived with me prior to. And so after months, I got back with her of trying to call her, leaving voicemails. Her phone with her email, her voicemail was full. I had to go to other people to get them to go through her to get her voicemail to clear out just so I could get a hold of her. She said one therapist came back and we're waiting for the second one. Well, if one therapist came back and it was not good, she should have just cut me right there. So we were waiting for the second one. So 2 months went by And I finally got a hold of her, and she flat out told me that my grandkids say they want nothing to do with me and they don't want to talk to me. And my exact words was, "That's a lie." And it went from there. And then I had to fight to get my granddaughter that stays with me to have visitations. So the foster mom came up to my granddaughter in court in front of a mediator and told her, "You can come anytime you want. You can stay and spend the night. I'll come pick you up, blah, 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 blah." Well, she started that. Every weekend, my granddaughter stayed with the foster mom to spend time with, her sister and brothers. And then something came up in court from the other sister that the foster mom didn't like, and they cut visits off altogether. And my granddaughter only has 1 hour per month, and I have to meet them at social services. And the other sibling, the sister of the youngest baby, they have to share a 1 hour visit together.
Okay. All right. So let me tell you this. Do you ever watch my YouTube channel?
Yes, I do. Mhm.
Okay. Well, this morning, I responded to a post from a grandmother, and it was from a video from March 2023. So it wasn't a recent video, and it's the grandmother book, though, because these videos live forever. You can post today on a year-old video, and I can respond, today or tomorrow on that. But it was your situation exactly. I can't tell you how many grandmothers and other relatives that call me and tell me and tell Miss G and tell the other people, "I'm a grandparent and I'm trying to get my grandchild back." And we're just a small sample of the population. If you know anything about statistics, if I get 10 a day, which it seems like it, and that's not an exaggeration, how many other grandparents and relatives are there out in the world that are having this problem that never call me, that don't even know about me?
Right. That's
So
why I passed your phone number to somebody who I knew was wronged in a case too.
So, if you extrapolate it, just using simple statistics, the numbers become staggering. Now, in my post, and I hope you try to find it and read it, and everyone tries to find it and read it. It's from a video from March of 2023. And I give a long response. And this is what I want to tell you, because I think that a lawyer has given you wrong information. That legal aid lawyer that told you, "Oh, it's a Senate case, you can't do anything." Now, I'm not licensed in Maryland. I don't know what Senate is. But I do know one thing. There is a constitution in this country. And, family has rights. The Supreme Court of the United States once wrote in an old case that the family is the fabric of our society.
Yep.
And we have to protect that. Now, what we have in a lot of cases, CPS cases, is they're not protecting it. As a matter of fact, they're going against it.
Yep.
Now, there are a lot of reasons why that happens, and we don't need to get into it today, but there's a lot of reasons why that happens. But just suffice it to say, from your own experience, it happens.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of thing happens. And I'm going to give you an example, because this is one of the things I posted this morning. Carolyn, I want you to imagine that a social worker shows up at your house unannounced. You don't know why she's there. She barges her way into the house. Okay. She goes past all the room, all the way to the back to a closet. And in that closet, she finds your secret hiding place. Most people have hiding places in their home. I know I do, right? And she finds the secret hiding place, And in that hiding place, you have $100 million cash. She sees the cash and she takes it. No court order, nothing. She takes the cash and she walks out of the house with it. And you never see the cash again. And so my question to people is, well, if that really happened to you, what would you do? And in my post, I'd say, number one, you'd call Johnny Cochran of O.J. Simpson fame if he were still alive. Or you'd call an attorney, civil rights attorney like Benjamin Crump, who's taken, that on that job to sue government in this country. Or you'd find a lawyer like them for $100 million. You'd do something. Now, why don't you do something like that when they take your grandchild?
Okay. So on that note, I did get a lawyer, even though legal aid told me that I would lose my case. And my lawyer put me in for child custody, a motion to intervene, and in worst case scenario, visitations.
By the way, that sounds right. I mean, that sounds right up to this point. So what happened?
So we had a case on March 14th to get custody.
Mm-hmm.
My lawyer told me that if we win the case, all the other cases get thrown out. They're doing a TPR for the parents, even though they gave them the process to get their kids back, and they've done everything, the parenting classes and everything. They shut that down. They did guardianship non-relative. But in my case, I went there, and my lawyer told me that she talked to the other lawyer, the Department of Social Services lawyer, and he said, you can't do that. And she said, oh, yeah, we can. So they gave me really good hope. We brought text messages. We did everything we needed to do. And she said, you might have to testify and you may not. Well, she went up against the Department of Social Workers lawyer to come to find out we had no jurisdiction.
What do you mean?
The magistrate said, you have a good case. I have no jurisdiction to overrule your custody because the Senate case pretty much is a higher thing. And he really felt bad by denying my custody case. So they threw my custody case out on March 14th.
Okay.
But I still have the motion to intervene, which is really funny because when we put in for the motion to intervene, they denied it. They said we couldn't have it.
Okay, stop. Now I'm going to ask you the most important question here. Your lawyer felt good about it. Sounds like your lawyer filed all the right things. The magistrate says you got a good case, but so you lost everything in court. Here's the key. What'd you do afterwards?
Well, we still have the motion to intervene on the 22nd of this month.
Okay. But have you done anything else for all of the denials of your motions yet? In other words, have you filed an appeal?
No, she didn't file an appeal because he put it down with prejudice, which means I cannot refile it.
Okay. No, I'm not asking you to refile it. What I'm saying is, what happens when a trial judge makes a decision that you don't like?
You usually appeal it, yes.
There you go. What a great idea.
Yeah.
Did you appeal?
My lawyer didn't say anything about it, but I will talk to her because I had talked to her on Tuesday.
Most definitely.
Yes.
And here, some occasionally these cases make it up to the United States Supreme Court. Occasionally. Okay.
Right.
That case I told you about, family is the fabric of our society, that was a CPS case. Okay. So here it goes. In California, probably the same in your state. You're at the trial court level. You lose. Then you appeal to the next court up. They call that in California the Court of Appeals.
Right.
Then let's say you lose there. What do?
Reappeal.
You talk to your attorney. There's two things you can actually do in California. I don't know about your state. You can actually file a motion for the the decision to be heard what they call en banc, which means instead of 3 justices in this district, hearing the case, you want the decision made by, all 20 justices in this district. All right. The other thing you can do is you can file a sort of an appeal, a writ, to the California Supreme Court, the highest court in our state. And if you lose there, you can still file a writ with the United States Supreme Court. So there's many, many, many different levels. A lot of people get so discouraged that they lose, that they fall on the ground, they have a pity party, and they just leave it at that. But wait, there's more. Okay, you see that on the information? Wait, there's more. There's more here. You have the type of case that you should go online and you should file a complaint with 2 federal, not Maryland state, federal agencies. Number 1, the Department of Health and Human Services. Okay, they have an online complaint form. In my opinion, this is my opinion, there is no way that a grandmother should not get the kids unless she's a criminal, right? A child abuser, right? Something of that nature. You don't appear to be that person. Now, I don't know you, but you don't appear to be that way. And they will, in a lot of cases, not all, I don't want to guarantee anything, not all will investigate. Like, what's going on? Why hasn't grandma got the kids? Like, tell us a good reason, or otherwise we're going to have to take action. And they do. They sometimes do. Now, I tell this to a lot of people on this show, and a lot of people say, they didn't do anything. They chose not to investigate. Here's the small problem. When you fill out that paperwork, it's just not filling out paperwork. You should probably use an attorney to make it a little bit more persuasive, so the attorney can show the reasons why this is important and it deserves an investigation. A lot of people don't realize that. They think, oh, it's a form, I fill it out myself. Okay, go ahead. No problem. Right? Number 2, the United States Department of Justice has offices all around the country. Okay? You should find your local Department of Justice, the closest one to you, call them up and say you want to speak to the Civil Rights Division. Okay? So the Department of Justice does a lot of different things. They prosecute criminals. They do civil stuff for the government, sue people, defend people. But they also have a civil rights department where if your rights are being violated, they have to investigate that. File a complaint with them. Now, I'm told, and I'm not sure about this, but I'm told that each office has a different procedure on how to do it. Some online, some you got to go down there and fill out the paperwork, whatever. But investigate that. All right. Now, here's the third thing that you should do. There is in every state an organization that oversees CPS. Okay, so the money comes from the federal government and it drops down into the state. Now, the state either, and I don't know what your state is, either controls the money and administrates CPS statewide, like they do in, for example, Oregon. Or sometimes the money drops from the sky and lands in, the capital of the state, like California, Sacramento, and then they give it all out to the counties. Okay? So CPS is a county organization. In Oregon, it's a state organization. Doesn't matter. Same thing. All right? Just different, people controlling the money. You should file a complaint with the state organization. Okay? Or the county organization. No, I take that back. Not the county. The state organization. Okay? You have to get as many people looking at this as possible. And this is what I'm not telling you to do, and maybe I haven't made this clear to people. Don't do it yourself,
Right.
right? So many people think that they can do it themselves. And I wish they could, but they can't. I mean, if I use this example all the time. Carolyn, if the doctor told you you need open heart surgery, what are you going to do? You going to Google it, figure it out
Second
yourself,
opinion. You
right?
gotta do a second opinion.
Hopefully, your second opinion won't be with your sister-in-law; it'll be with another doctor. Because guess what? Many years ago, when my wife was still alive, I got some bad news from a doctor. He said, Mr. Davis, you need to have your thyroid removed. And I don't know if you know this, but thyroid is a really important organ. I didn't realize that until I
Yeah.
started researching it.
Medicine all your life, yes.
So one of the first things I did was I talked to a friend who's not a doctor, and I asked him what he thought about it. Now, my wife overheard this conversation, and after I had the conversation, she says to me, "Why are you asking Bert about whether you should get a medical procedure done?" I thought about it, and I thought, well, I guess so. I mean, he's a smart guy. He's not a doctor, and he had never heard of the thyroid. So that's how funny that one is. And she says, why don't you go get the opinion of an expert, another doctor? Now, I'm like in my late 40s, early 50s, and I'm a smart guy. Do you know that I've never had a second opinion in my life up to this point? Never. Never thought about it. Doctor says you got to have your thyroid removed. Okay, we got to have it removed. And by the way, there's a lot of complications with life when they do that.
Yes.
So I go and see a doctor, a specialist in the area, a specialist in the endocrine system and the thyroid. And I go see this guy and I ship him my records, right? My records back then were on CD, a new thing, it wasn't all paper. And I ship him the CD and then I go for my appointment. And he basically tells me while he's laughing, whatever doctor told you this is a quack. And I'm thinking, well, it's kind of not funny. Why are you laughing? And, he tells me don't have the operation. All right. So I don't have the operation. Instead, because I didn't like this doctor and I didn't like the fact that he didn't like run any tests or anything, I didn't trust it. So I found another specialist a little further out from me. Very famous guy. And I go to him. I send him the medical records and everything. I go to him and he says to me, I don't think you need this operation. He says, I wouldn't advise it, but let's make sure. Let's do some tests.
Right.
And he sends me out to another doctor for something called a fine needle biopsy. Have you ever heard that term?
No.
That's when they stick a needle in your neck or any part of your body, and they scrape the organ or the tissue to gather cells, then they suck it out, and then they put it under the microscope and test it. And then the same guy was going to do or did an ultrasound. Right. So I go to have this test done, and this guy tells me, he goes, I'm not the primary referring doctor on this, but I'm going to tell you what your doctor's going to say. Your doctor's going to say you don't need to have your thyroid removed. And I said, are you sure? He goes, yeah. He says, there's an issue there, but he says, I've taken care of it. He says, what you had was a cyst, but it was a fluid cyst, and I sucked everything out, so you don't have the cyst anymore. I said, it's not cancer or anything like that. He says, no, nothing serious like that. I said, how do you know? He says, well, I tested for it. And he says, I said, you can test that fast? He goes, yeah, I ran a quick and dirty test. I'm pretty sure the results will come back negative for cancer. And they did. So I go back to the doctor, the second expert, and he goes, you don't have, from the test, confirm what I've told you. You don't have to have the operation. Okay, perfect. It's been at least 20 some years. no problems.
Right.
All right. The moral of the story is quit asking people that aren't attorneys what you should be doing.
Right.
And here's the weird, the kind of funny thing. You know, sometimes you'll ask a patent attorney about a CPS case. There's no way. You might as well ask your garbage man. Sometimes, and here's what happens a lot of times, you'll ask a criminal attorney or a family law divorce attorney about your CPS case.
Right.
They can give you an opinion. It won't be an expert opinion. And if your grandchildren are important, I'm a guess you probably want an expert opinion.
Right.
Now, the attorney you hired sounds like she filed the correct things. Only thing you got to do is talk to her about the appeal, right? Now, should you appeal? You know, who's going to pay for it? All that kind of stuff you talk to the attorney about. You know, if it's me and it's my grandchildren, you know, there's no limits. But that's
Right.
just me. You know, and I tell Miss G this all the time. People don't feel like you. You know, you'd make ABC decision. They're not going to make ABC. They're going to make CDE. They're going to make XYZ. So don't think that they're going to do the same thing you're going to do. But you have to talk to your attorney. Sounds like she knows what she's doing. And I don't know anything about the Senate in Maryland, but I would be surprised at a constitutional level if that overrules your right to have your grandchildren in a CPS case, especially where you already have one of the grandchildren. Like, okay, what, you're safe for one, but not the others? I don't get it. You know, when I was a court-appointed attorney 25 years ago, I did a lot of cases in front of this one judge. He was actually a commissioner, and he's really, really smart, real smart guy. And his response, is that Miss G's house? No. His response was, look, his response would be, if the grandmother or the parent is okay to have one child, why can't they have the other children? He says,
Sure.
doesn't make logical sense. Either she's a danger or a risk to all children, or there's some other kind of agenda going on that you're not letting me know about.
Well, the granddaughter I have here is, she wasn't over there with all that.
Doesn't matter. She's a minor.
Yeah.
You got her in your custody, right?
Well, she's in my son's custody.
Okay. She lives with you?
She's 17, so she likes staying with grandma all the time. So
Right.
Yeah.
Use it to your advantage. 17 is still a minor.
Yes.
Okay. And she's been with you probably more than a month or a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, she's probably been there for a few years, maybe. Yeah. So get back in court, do something, talk to your attorney. Because if you don't do anything, like I told this grandma on YouTube today, in my comment, if you don't do anything, you're going to lose that grandchild.
Right.
And people think, oh, this is America. That's not going to happen. It is going to happen.
Right. Well, that's what I was saying when this case first started. I talked to attorneys, and the legal aid actually, she's the one that told me this won't happen. You will not win this case. Do not, and after all this time, that's when I did get a lawyer, and my lawyer's like, yeah. But then they shut her down in court. But I'm trying to figure out, why would they put a magistrate in there instead of an actual judge? Because the magistrate said he didn't have the jurisdiction. He didn't have the authority. So I'm trying to figure out.
That's a procedural question unique to your state and county. I can't answer that without, doing research or talking to your lawyer. Who knows what they do and why?
Right.
Was it just the assignment? Was it a setup? I don't know. I don't know.
The next question that my lawyer has for them was, we put in for a motion to intervene. So we were just like sidelined, myself and the other grandmother. We were just sidelined. They wouldn't let us in the case, so we were there every single court case. Then they threw us out of one of the court cases because there was accusations against the foster mom. They didn't want us to hear it, but the judge did tell in court that if the grandmas want to put in a motion to intervene, he will hear it. So we put in a motion to intervene and it got denied. And I'm like, why would the judge say this and then deny it? But mysteriously, a couple of days later, my lawyer gets a letter saying that it's been approved. So my lawyer was questioning that. I'm not understanding how 1 minute it was denied and now it was approved. And I know over here that they have one judge sign off and another one oversees it. So I think one judge probably signed and said no, and the other judge probably said yes. And that's the way I'm figuring it. So we do have a motion to intervene on the 22nd. And like I said, this is our last chance.
Okay.
And before we have to move on to something else higher of appealing and all that.
You know, once you intervene, let's say it's granted. If you were in California, that doesn't mean that you get the kid.
Right.
You just got to be in the case.
Right. And for them to hear our side. Exactly.
Right. Now you have to produce the evidence and the testimony and the documents and the videos and the pictures to convince the judge that one or all of those grandkids should be placed with you.
Right. And CPS said they will not separate them. And I'm not expecting them to. I told them I just want all my grandkids. I've been standing here from day one. And even the social worker detective said, even though you're the grandmother, that don't give you a right to have these kids. You're not first in line, was her exact words from day one.
Who's first in line?
I'm not. Well, when I talked to my daughter about it, she said normally it's the foster moms that decide whether they want the kids or not.
No. Well, there's a little bit of truth to that, but you got to take it in the right context. Like I told the grandmother in my YouTube post today, what happens is that when they delay you getting the child, what happens is that a child starts forming a bond with the foster parent. A physical bond, a psychological bond, and an emotional bond. Okay? It's normal. It happens with all human beings. Just happens.
Right. Well,
what they're going to say is, and what they say all the time, oh, now that we haven't purposely or accidentally not given the kids to the grandma, they've formed a bond with foster mom, and it would be more detrimental to remove the children from foster mom.
Right.
Now, you know, I'm going to be honest with you. That can be a case. But I've taken the position, and it's not the law, but it's my own personal decision, that it's a belief that no matter what, absent extreme circumstances, the kid should be placed with grandma. Period. Now, my beliefs are influenced by my own experiences. I don't know if you know this, but I was raised from the age of about 3 or 4 to, adulthood by my grandparents.
Right.
So, but I would have to think, looking back on my life, that might have been better than foster parents. I don't know. One of the things that I used to do in my career when I first started doing this area of law, I used to represent foster parents. I used to represent them in cases where they were in jeopardy of losing their license. A lot of people don't know this, but foster parents do quote unquote abuse to foster kids all the time. There's a whole judicial proceeding that happens with foster parents. All right. And I don't think most people in the juvenile system, in the CPS system, realize that there is this court, administrative court, that deals with foster parents who've been accused of abusing a child. And I don't think I've ever seen a report from a social worker contain detailed information about what foster parents are accused of.
Right.
Listen, and I've told this before, I represented a woman who was accused of causing the death of a foster child. The kid was removed from the the parent, the mom, single mom, because the mom was on drugs. I don't know to what extent, and had been involved in some type of domestic violence with an old boyfriend, not even the current. And I'm not sure leaving the kid with her is worse than the kid being placed in a foster home where the child died. So these are societal considerations. I don't wear a black robe, never have, but it's something that we all, part of the system, have to think about.
Yeah.
There are cases LA County at one time appointed made a special position for an attorney to represent the county in investigations of kids in foster homes because too many kids were dying in foster homes. And generally when they die in foster home, the family brings a lawsuit. Cost the county millions.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if that position still exists. I don't know because I just never kept up on it. But the interesting thing is, here's the interesting, the attorney that was first appointed to this position, I think he was first, is a judge today in CPS court. Now, I'm going to tell you something, Miss G. He is a judge that I believe, in my heart of hearts, is very fair. And I think it's because of the experience that he had investigating deaths and injuries in foster homes. Now, how many judges have that experience? Probably not many at all. Probably none except for him that I know of. So, what people do, is based upon their experiences and beliefs. And he has a very unique experience, in a system. I see Miss G is raising her hand, Carolyn. Should I acknowledge her?
Yeah.
Okay, Miss G. Hold on. Let me turn down my volume. Go ahead.
I knew you were going to do that. This is why. This is a love-hate relationship between me and him. Okay. Is that judge still alive? Can we find that if he's still alive? What department is he in?
I'm not going to mention it.
Okay, well, can you mention it to me after the show?
Yeah, I will tell you.
Okay, please do. Because I honestly don't believe what you say when it comes to good people in the court system. Only because I have seen so much corruption. It's not just my experience or my friend's experience or my neighbor's experience. It's more of worldwide experience that I have spoken to people. And you know me, Vince, I speak to people all hours of day and night. You know that.
Right. Yeah.
So I have a lot of people from other states that call me and they say the same thing that Carolyn is saying. I'm talking about grandparents. Same exact thing. They leave the children with the abusive foster parent, and then they say they don't want to remove the child because they don't want to traumatize the child because they build a bond with them. They didn't build no damn bond. There is no damn bond. It doesn't mean it doesn't make any sense to me. A child will never forget their mother, ever.
With
it
my
doesn't
case,
make sense to me.
With my case, really quick, I get to see the kids every once in a while because I take my granddaughter to visit.
Yeah.
And you can tell the pain because they're not allowed to
Yep.
talk. And I'll blow a kiss and they'll, they're,
Yep.
and they know that they can't. But I do have another case with my friend that I'll give her your number to, because she had the same thing. Her kids got taken out for no reason. That one sent here, one sent there, and then the little boy had a beautiful relationship with his foster mom, and the little girl had a bad one to where they even left her somewhere and forgot about her and had to go pick her up. But I'll leave that for her. That'll be her thunder when I give her your number to call in.
Hey, I want to tell you guys something. This happened some time ago, a couple of years ago. A child was placed in foster care, and the child wanted their laptop, their iPad,
Mhm.
their iPhone. It just so happened that the parent had previously installed monitoring software
Oh wow.
on these devices. And while the child was in foster home,
Hmm.
the monitoring devices picked up the foster mother abusing verbally and physically the child.
Mm.
Mhm.
Now, all before this, the foster parent was an exemplary, known as an exemplary foster home, and was widely recommended.
Yes, that's my
Now,
same case.
now, now here's the interesting thing. I told you something before. As human beings, we bond. If you're a kid, you're 5 or 6 years old, and you're being fed by um, Miss G, because
Lies.
you're living in Miss G's home. You're going to bond with Miss G. Now, it might be a healthy bond, might not be a healthy bond, but you're going to bond.
Right.
Okay. Now, the thing that happens is, and this is the other side of the coin. Miss G is not the mother of this child.
Mhm.
Okay. So Miss G is going to have a different relationship, emotional, physical, psychological, with that child. It's not going to be mother child. It's not going to be mother child.
You see, in
And
my
for us as a society to think that it's going to be that, no, it's not going to be that.
you
We're
see,
ignoring, we ignore things that we don't want to acknowledge, and we highlight things that we do want to acknowledge. Do it. We all do that. Human beings do that.
But I have a thing to mention. And Carolyn, I know you want to say something, baby, but let me talk a little
Sure.
bit for you, okay? Um, I understand what you're saying, Vincent, and I get it. You speak like a lawyer. You're a lawyer, great lawyer. You're fabulous, fantastic, freaking lawyer. You're brilliant. I get it. But as an emotional bond, you guys talk about in court, children never build an emotional bond with a stranger to them. You know what it is? They feed their heads from their young age that this person is for them. This person is here for them. This person will do anything for them, but the action of that person speaks different language to a child. Then the child starts disliking that person, hating that person, whatever you want to call it. Then the children grow older. Then that person who is not their mother, example, will treat them a little bit with decency. Why? Because now she is afraid the children are going to complain, right? But at the same token, the children never really bonded with that mother, never bonded with that mother. So, therefore, what have we done really? We taught children to stay silent. How do
right,
they stay silent? By
100%.
either
Yep.
binge eating. Some children binge eating, like they eat to keep them satisfied, or some children tend to focus on their school, believe it or not, to make sure they get A's all the time, that they put their mind into something else to make them forget the pain they're facing.
Right.
So they say children survive this shit. They're mistaken. Some children resort to drugs. Some children get love from their friends, and they're the wrong friends most of the time.
Miss G, I have
Yes.
to tell you something. That's one of the most insightful things you've ever said.
Oh my God, I swear when I
No,
see you,
that's
I'm going to give you a timeout.
that's a compliment, Deirdre. That was a compliment.
No, I know, but I wanted to say something too off of that though.
Go ahead.
But wait, Deidre, I want to hear what Vincent has to say. Please say. Finish what you have to say.
Just that was insightful. I never
No
really
way.
thought about it like that, to be honest with you.
Thank you.
But you know what? You're absolutely right about that.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead, Deirdre. Go ahead.
Wait, you might have to have him say one more time, Miss G.
Yes, I know.
No,
Absolutely
Deidre,
right.
Deidre,
Hey, hold on.
call Ripley's Believe It or Not. But
Oh
go
my
ahead.
God. I need to save this video, Deidre. I have to save this moment. It's 10:25 a.m.
We will
3/19/2023.
we'll edit it out. Don't worry. Go
Oh
ahead.
no. No, what I was going to say though, in most cases, obviously, that would be 100% true because of the kids being old enough to do that. But in situations like mine, which is the worst flip side of it with my youngest, is the fact that my case opened and I was 7 months pregnant. So when my youngest got taken and the foster parents took him, they've had him since he's been born. And so 2 years into it, that's where they got to prove that fact of Mr. Davis saying the bond now that my kid has with these foster parents is obviously much more, or it would be more detrimental, supposedly, to take him from them to put with a paternal grandmother because they let my case go on so long and put off the grandma's approval that we didn't know about for being assessed to take him. So that's the other flip side of it. And, you know, us poor parents suffering in that fact of the matter and knowing that they just screwed you from day one. I felt like they only wanted to carry on my case because of my newborn child at the time. That was what they had their, I think, eyes set on since day one, now that I know the world of, you know, all the corruption. But again, it's like, how can you sit there and say that the bond that they have with these foster parents is going to be much stronger than a biological relationship? And my attorney even argued good facts in the TPR hearing as far as what about this child growing up and not knowing its medical background,
Right.
as far as, you know, yeah, okay, that bond that you think was so important at that time. Well, now what? When it comes to him, like maybe having medical issues down the road, and now he not knowing anything about his biological traits or anything like that, you know, and it's just sick to think that really they thought it would be better for my child to be with these complete stranger of a people that has only really established this bond because of them and them dragging this case out. So again, it's kind of like in a situation like that, it's even harder because how can us biological parents or grandparents or whatever do more than what we already feel like we were doing to not let them think that this bond for so long is going to be the most important.
Correct.
So in
I
my
Yeah,
and-
by the way, Deirdre, and maybe this can be an assignment for the next time you're on our show, or everyone, Deirdre's going to be having her own show. But there has been a lot of, believe it or not, a lot of scientific research into that area. And, you know, this is as scientific as it can be, but people are coming down on both sides of the coin. There are those that say family, you know, your family ties should be primary. And there's are those that are saying, oh, you know what? You form new bonds with the foster parents, therefore that should be primary. Who knows? Okay. As a scientist, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a social, you know, person. I don't study that, but I can tell you just from my own personal experiences, my opinion is family should win overall.
Exactly.
That's just me. Now I can bring on minors attorneys, judges, who will tell you something completely different.
Yep.
And I'm not criticizing it. It's America. Everybody gets to have their own belief system, their own opinions. Great thing about our country.
You see,
But
with mine,
this is a
like,
really important part. And either the Supreme Court of the United States is right or they're not. And they say family is the fabric of our society. I mean, it means everything, above all.
Hmm.
But, I don't wear a robe. I don't make laws.
You should.
That's just what.
Real quick, Mr. Davis, I wrote down a question earlier when you were talking about, though, like you can do this and you can appeal this and you can even do this and this. Now, in the meantime, of like, let's say you keep on filing all these appeals, will the adoption, so to speak, continuously be put on hold as long as you're filing these appeals?
they did mine. They
There,
stretched.
there is the possibility, yes. Is it
Like they
guaranteed?
can't go forward with it, or they could still
They
get it?
in a lot of cases they still do, but if you win, guess what? It's reversed.
It's reversed.
Okay, so I I
Some
would.
cases is not reversed though, Vincent. Some cases they don't reverse the adoption.
So this is what I think, that you should be focusing on what you can do, not what might happen or could happen.
Right.
You got to keep your eyes on the prize, and that's one of the things that gets people off track. I see it all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll give you an example. Sometimes I'll be talking to Miss G about something relating to her case, and I'm going down Avenue A, and she's going down Avenue Z. She's
Right.
personally involved in her case,
Right.
right? I'm trying to look at it like she said, I'm a lawyer. I'm trying to be objective. And sometimes people don't understand that. And I get it. It's their family. It's their life
Right.
that they're talking about. I
But
get
see,
it.
if I would have went down that avenue, I wouldn't have gotten a lawyer, because the same thing with, before what the lawyer told me. And I kept thinking, I'm like, no, I'm going to do this anyway.
Right.
So even though I didn't get the custody and it got thrown out, I still have my foot in the door. The judge still knows what's going on. He still has heard my case. But there was a couple things I had earlier, and I'm trying to remember. But in my paperwork, the CPS lawyer is just downing me, and even said that it was my fault that the children has a bond with the foster parents, because I did nothing. And he put nothing in big words, that I did nothing. But the whole time I've been calling lawyers, I've been calling CPS, I've been emailing, Gmailing, and they were stretching everything. They've even stretched the case out. They postponed it, and they postponed it as much as they possibly could to get this case to stretch as far as they can. You know what I'm saying? There was other
Didn't you
couple
say
of,
the children were in your care when they got taken, though?
no, they were in the father and the new wife's care.
So was the new wife abusive to the children?
Yes.
I
And
knew it.
Yes.
And they don't just abuse them physically, they abuse them mentally. You know what mentally meaning? They sabotage every chance
Yes.
that the biological mom has, right? And sabotages their like infect their brains with some bullshit talk. That's not even true. Oh, your mom and dad did this, or your mom did this, or your grandma did this, or I mean, they literally feed them with lies, and the kids grow up thinking this is true. It has to be true. Otherwise, why am I not with mom? Think about it for a minute. Exactly. Brainwashed. Complete brainwash. And that's what the new wife always does. And that's what kills me. Like, to me, it's like, if you're a mom and say you marry a man that has children, why would you want to infect their brain from their real biological mother? If you are a mom and you love your kid, right? Why would you want to infect their head from, the family, the maternal family of the children?
Well, it's because when you start thinking that something's going on, that's when the abuser starts brainwashing and she's wrong and breaking up the family. That's what happened with me. I got totally shunned out of the family.
Exactly.
My son wouldn't talk to me, the whole, and I hadn't, I couldn't see what was going on after that. You know what I'm saying? But I did go to the school, and I reported it to the school.
Mm-hmm.
And that woman looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, wait for this government number to call. And I did. I waited for 2 weeks and I got no phone call.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went and I talked to another social worker and I gave her all the information. And I heard nothing after that. So CPS has let my grandkids down too.
Oh yeah, but CPS always leaves the children with the abuser, though, Carolyn. They
Right.
don't. They know they're abusive. They know it, Carolyn. They know it. They
And
know
that's
it.
why it went to a Senate case, which, like I said, it's a box. No court case or anything can touch this. It overrules everything. That's why I'm still fighting to get into there.
I don't, just as a concept, Carolyn, you know, I don't know anything about the Senate case, but, you know, I've seen like things in the law that are just, you know, set in stone.
Right.
But there is always a review process, some review process. You got to find it, but there's always a review process. I want to wish you luck on your motion to intervene.
Thank
You
you.
know, keep us posted. Keep us posted. By the
I
way,
want to know, actually.
have you ever thought about sharing your views and your ideas and your thoughts with people on
With
this
other
platform?
grandmothers, actually.
Yeah.
Well, I am in a couple other groups. They're like private, you know.
No, I'm not
they're-
talking about a group. I'm talking
She's
about
already promoted you to 2 people. The girl from yesterday, she said Mr. Davis, and now she's about to give your phone number to someone
no,
else
no,
today.
no,
But
no.
she
That's not what I'm
messaged
looking
me
for.
and asked me to help her in her Avengers with that, and I'm willing. I am
Carolyn,
willing.
the reason why I'm asking you is not to promote me. Let me tell you what the reason is.
To
You know,
outreach.
yeah, I meet a lot of people doing this, you know, these shows, and that's one of the things I really like about it. And I want to give people a platform, okay, to talk about and to help others that are like them. So, for example, Deidre's going to have her own show. Miss G already has her show, 2 days a week in the afternoons, uh, Thursdays and Fridays. Would you be interested in doing a show for perhaps grandparents?
Mm-hmm.
Like I would like be in with you guys. I wouldn't be by myself, right?
Could be either. Could be with us. Could
Be with
be by yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, if you would, that would be great. I'm gonna, you know, Grace doesn't work on Sunday, so our producer isn't in today. But I'm gonna ask Miss G to tell Grace to contact Carolyn and set her up on a show, and we can talk about just grandparent stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people call in or they appear on the show, on my show at least, and the topics are all over the place, you know, because so many different things happen in CPS cases. But if we could just focus on one thing, you know, one issue, might help people. Is that Miss G raising her hand again?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I was going to ask Carolyn.
Wait, hold on.
Oh, he
No,
muted me. Oh,
no, I didn't.
I was going to ask Carolyn if she would like to join me and her together on Relatives Fight CPS.
That'd be
Relatives
great.
Fight CPS.
That'd be great.
I've been looking for a co-host with me to do that show with me, but I wanted a grandmother, you know.
I would be
That
honored.
way she can relate to the public. And I would love to start that show back on again. And I would love to have you with me, Carolyn, if you don't mind.
Yes, I would love to do that.
Then I will definitely have Grace give me your number. Hopefully you gave her your cell number. So I can, okay, perfect. I will go ahead and talk to Grace, and I'm going to definitely contact you. And thank you for agreeing. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Trent Dancy watching on YouTube says Miss G is 1 in a billion.
Oh, billion?
Yes.
Trent, thank you so much. God bless you. I love you.
I've actually had the honor of speaking with you months ago. I don't know if you remember. And you were just like downright brutal honest. And then you just really got upset and was just about in tears just I can hear it on the phone while I was telling you my story.
I cry.
So,
I do. I cry with people. And that's why last call I got last night was, I think it was Friday night. Sorry. It was like 12:15 in the morning, by the way, Carolyn. And I think when I called you, it was late. It wasn't early. Correct?
Yeah, it was late. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I was all ears with my phone with you. Yeah.
I understand your pain. I swear, everyone, especially the mother, the woman, the pain. And I'm not saying there's not evil women out there. God knows there are.
Yeah.
Oof, there are.
And see,
But
I have 16 grandkids.
yeah.
Oh wow.
And like I said, the 4 that are missing is breaking my heart. I don't care if I have 100. You know, the 99 got left for the 1. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's what I'm looking at. That's my grandkids. And like I told them, if something happens and my grandkids get adopted, that's still my blood and they're still my grandkids. And when I see them out on the street, they're going to still be my grandkids. I'm still going to hug them and love them and kiss them on them. Just you know, they
You know,
can't keep that away.
Carolyn, do you remember when I told you that the system operates this way, where the case that Davis was handling in 2022, there was a client of ours. She's a maternal grandmother. She's from the mom side. And they gave her back. The mother died in an, I don't know if Vincent, no, well, it was in our office, but another attorney was handling it. The mother died in a car accident. So automatically the maternal grandmother is there, right? Now,
Right.
they wouldn't give all the children to the maternal grandmother. What they did, they gave her the 2 teens, the twins, and then they kept the newborn child.
Because it
They
brings in more money.
they kept the newborn child. No. The mother was alive when the child was born. She had the child for like 6 months. Then she had a car accident. There was a hit and run. Then she died. And then the father already died a year before cancer. And then, sorry, no. The father was dying of cancer and he was in chemo. He was like trying to survive. So when the mother died, the grandmother said, I will take the grandchildren. They would not give her the 6 months old. They only gave her the twins.
Mm.
So nobody wanted to adopt the twins. This is what happened. They wanted to adopt the 6 or 9 months old at the time.
Right.
They wanted to adopt that child.
I have relatives that has opt out, like hit 18 years old before anybody adopted them.
Right. But do you see how they twist reality? If she's safe to have the twins, why isn't she safe to have the 9 months or 6 months? I don't remember how old the child was. Why?
Because it's easier to adopt a baby than it is to adopt older children.
Correct.
Hey, you guys, Harriet Peabody says, watching on YouTube, they are trying to take my grandchild because my daughter had Suboxone in her system that her obstetrician prescribed her. Well, that's not new, Harriet. They are saying that none of the family can take him. We need help. Harriet,
Oh my God.
Harriet, bottom right-hand corner of the screen. 888-888-6582. Call me. Don't delay.
Yes.
It's not going to turn out good. Okay. Hey, you guys, this has been a great show. We've reached the end of the show. We're way past the end of the show. But I want to thank you, Miss Carolyn Fowler, for being on the show today and sharing your story.
My pleasure.
And it looks like we picked up another co-host or host for another show on CPS. You know, Carolyn, I don't know if I've ever told you this or told the audience this, but I've told Miss G this. It's my goal to have a show 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
You never told me that, but I know on your videos it said your goal would to reach, I don't know, 100,000 people.
1 million.
Well, look at you're in Maryland.
Yeah, and I will do. I mean, I don't hear a lot of things, but I know down here there's a lot of grandparents that have their grandkids. It's like crazy phenomenal. So
okay, I want to thank my co-host, Miss Deidre Payne. Miss Payne, thank you for joining us this morning. I can't wait to see you on your own show and on co-host on other shows. And of course, Miss G, the inimitable Miss G, Miss Georgette Truin. Thank you for joining us on this Sunday morning and adding to this show. This is a really good show. Really good show.
Wait, Davis, real quick. I know you're eager. Wait.
You know, you know what I've been trying. I've developed something called an outro series where I just push the button, everything goes blank, we play some music, and it's over.
Wait, just wait. Okay, just real quick. I just want you to. Well, James, I love you, James. Thank you for supporting me. I just want you to hear the link I shared with you in a private message. That's a lawyer wants judges and 3 judges to allow, or 4, I can't remember how many judges, to allow social workers to lie. Okay, I
Yes.
want you guys to watch this video. I swear you guys are gonna understand what my passion is to fight, and Davis's passion is to fight, and Deidre, and now Carolyn, and Darren, Guy, all these beautiful people I have in my circle. I'm telling you guys, there's a reason for this madness, and I don't want to sleep until I accomplish something. So basically, before I die, I want to make sure that something happens where mothers don't lose their children, and maternal grandparents don't lose their children, and good people don't lose their children. Okay, please, just if you can share that link with them, Vincent, I would really, really appreciate it.
Just to give you some background, this is kind of I hate to say it, it's kind of a funny video. It is an argument from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, the federal court of appeals in the Western United States, where an attorney is representing, and I think it's the county of Orange, by the way, Ms. Payne, representing Orange County, and arguing to the justices that social workers should have immunity when they lie in court under oath. You have to watch the video. It's kind of an old video, but you have to watch the video because the reactions and the statements by these justices is unreal. And basically somebody forced this attorney to go up and make this crazy argument, and basically they just threw her to the lions.
But it doesn't seem like it even really matters, because I stood on the court case and I proved that they were all lying, and they all still worked for CPS, and one still today works there. Why did she not get fired for lying on the stand?
They get promoted.
I'm going to tell you why, Carolyn. This is why.
Oh, no, he didn't.
This is why. And I know you're not going to like this, but you didn't do anything about it.
That's thinking because I walked away with my grandkids. So yeah, right. That was just
you were thinking. You're thinking, right. Well, they lied. They got caught. Someone will do something about it.
They'll get promoted.
Yeah, and I did. I dropped the ball.
That's
I dropped the ball with that, but I got my grandkids, and I went on about my life. And I should have thought about that, because that could affect somebody else's life today.
Absolutely. How long ago was that? How long ago was that?
That was 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
12 years ago.
No judicial action. But here, you know what? I would be happy to help you do something, and that's write a book.
Yeah.
About that one experience.
Yeah. Well, I have another experience too that we're not getting into because you're trying to shut the show down. But
Mr. Davis is the one that is keeping it going, actually.
Because I told you about suing CPS 32 years ago, and you probably remembers that case when I talked to you guys like a year ago.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said 32 years ago you talked to
32 years ago. Yes, in PG.
You talked to Mr. Davis?
All of you. Yeah, 32 years ago.
Mr. Davis. She's your number one fan now. She wins.
I've been doing this for.
He was probably a court-appointed. He was probably a court-appointed attorney still back then.
I've been doing this 37 years. This December.
Yeah.
Miss G keeps meeting me.
Yep. Because you just go on and on.
Because we're having a great conversation, and I'm sure there's more, but it's not enough time.
I have to tease somebody. Everybody teases me on this show. I have to tease somebody. So Deidre, sometimes,
Well, I learned from the best.
You learned from Davis, not me.
No, you. He gets you going. You know how hard it's been for me to be quiet today? You weren't here the first part of the show. I didn't say one word, Mr. Davis. I didn't say one word.
Yeah, you were very cool.
You weren't here to witness it.
Hey, ladies. So I have to.
I was going to cut it off.
I have to go on to my, my regular life here.
Oh, okay.
You have a life, Davis? I don't.
Got to eat breakfast. All right, folks. Goodbye, and we'll see everyone tomorrow.
Bye.
7
God bless.
p.m.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Looking forward to it.
Bye.